This is very old school. I mean, I could hear Judas Priest playing somewhere in the bike, and there's not even a speaker. It's really strange. TG MotoRider, here with my VTX 1800. Just bought this bike. I love the VTX series. I've had two VTX 1300s, and now I just bought this VTX 1800. It kind of goes alongside of my Triumph Thunderbird 1600. They're pretty close, actually. I'm going to do a comparison video at some point, but today I really just wanted to review this bike. This is a total ride and review of everything I think about this. I've ridden it for a week. For what you're going to pay for one of these, the horsepower is absolutely ridiculous. These are about $3,000 or $4,000. Now, they don't make them anymore. Honda made them from 2002 to 2008. VTX, V-Twin Extreme is what that stands for. You know, the jury's out. People dyno and argue about this motor, and I've read a lot of articles. It's about 100 horsepower. You're going to get 115 foot-pounds of torque. The 0 to 60 is really a rock solid 3.6, 3.8 seconds, depending on how quick you are. It's a fast bike for what it is. It's a 750-pound cruiser, wet. This is the 1800C. Now, they did make an S, an R, an H. Those are heavier, actually, and they actually have more suspension travel. This is the C model. The C model gives you 4.2 inches of travel off of the front. Telescopic forks, which is great to handle the weight, the corners, and all that good stuff. You've got 3.9 inches of travel on the 5 load presets on the back. The brakes, very, very good. 3 pistons each on both sides. 2 rotors. The brakes are linked. So when you hit the rear brake, it engages the 2 pistons in the rear and the center 2 pistons in the front if you just hit the rear. Then the front gives you all 3, basically. It is liquid cooled. Kawasaki came out with the Vulcan 2000 right around the time this came out, trying to compete with it. But this smoked it in the 0 to 60 and the quarter mile. Just a big, fat, heavy, fast bike. They give you a 130 on the front. You got a 180 on the back, which is fine. It's not too wide, so you still corner well with it. I've got a 200 on the back of my Thunderbird, and that makes cornering sometimes, man, you really got to get in there. But this is very manageable, actually. It handles the weight very, very well. As you can see, they gave you a number of magnificent features. Now, this is an 03, so basically you got some idiot lights there. And you know what you get? I'll tell you what you get. This is amazing. This puts to shame all those new adventure bike computer systems. I get a single trip odometer, and then I get the odometer. So I've got trip 1, and then I've got odometer. Well, that's kind of cool. You get I've been averaging about 32 miles per gallon in a 4.5-ish gallon tank, so right around 120 miles, you might want to start looking for a gas station. Definitely not a long distance runner. It's definitely not set up for that. You're kind of in the shape of a C when you ride it. These are swept back, but they're not swept back so much to where you're kind of chilling out in that nice VTX 1300 riding position. You're still sort of kind of shaped like that when you ride it. But you know what? I absolutely kind of love this thing. It's got Cobra pipes, makes a great noise. Let's go for a ride. 1.87, 59. Well, there you have it. How many times does this 2 go into 59? We have about 30 miles a gallon. So with a wide ratio 5th gear, you really don't need a 6th gear. So there's 5th kicking in at 65, and you hear it sputtering on the low end. So 4th pumps just fine at 60. So 5th gear really does, 2nd gear can get you to 60 in this bike. So, you know, your mid to upper range is pretty good at each gear on this thing. It does corner very, very well. The 180 on the back's fine. It's not too hard to fight that. This would not be a good beginner bike. Let me get that out of the way. It's too much torque. It's a lot of speed for its weight. And if you're a new rider and you're just getting used to weight and speed, this would be a dynamic thrown at you that, I don't know, you'd have to be very judicious. Why do people buy the VTX 1800? Really, just... That's why. A lot of torque. A lot of horsepower. The 1800 sounds great with the Cobra pipes, I'm not going to lie to you. The clutch is hydraulic. This is hydraulic fluid for the clutch. It's not a clutch cable. Just like brake fluid. Matter of fact, it is brake fluid. You want to keep the fluid looking good in there, especially if you pick one up that's an 03. You know, it's sort of helping you shift. Road closed ahead. Well, how bad could it be? Now, when you say road closed, do you mean closed all the way? Or just clogged up a bit? Who would buy a VTX 1800? Well, if you're somebody who's come from a 1300, it's a natural progression. Even a V-Star 950, you'd probably be alright with it. If you're coming from a really small bike and you're just going to jump on one of these, highly don't recommend that, because the 1800's got a lot of torque. And a lot of speed. And if you can manage that and you're mature enough to deal with it, you're fine. But you want to come from underneath. You know, this is my 9th bike. I keep 4. I've test ridden a bunch of bikes. I've been on, I don't want to say pretty much everything, but I've been on a lot. This is very old school. I mean I could hear Judas Priest playing somewhere in the bike, and there's not even a speaker. It's really strange. Yes, it gets the gas mileage of a 72 Chevelle, but where are you going to get something that pound for pound, dollar per horsepower, is going? That is one fat dead raccoon. That thing was bigger than a boulder. If I wasn't hammering this bike every 30 seconds since I got it, I probably would be getting 36 miles per gallon like it says. But there's really not a lot about this bike that says don't hammer it. I mean, this bike's asking you to hammer it from the second you get on it. It just wants you to. And it does rumble. It's got a great soundtrack. If you want to buy it just because you like the rumble, it makes a great country rider. It makes a great just daily commuter or cruiser. It really does. And it's not that bad on gas to where it's, 30 miles per gallon. It's not, I mean, it's bad for a motorcycle, but in terms of a car, it's still pretty good. On the C model, there's only 4.2 inches of travel in the front fork. Now my VTX 1300 has 5.1 inches of travel on the front fork, and yet this is a way softer ride, and I don't know why. It's just softer. It's just, it glides. The spring seals, the fluid in the forks on both bikes, it's good. This just rides better to me than my 1300. Why would you buy an 1800? I don't know. I spent a week on it so far, and the only thing I can think of is why wouldn't you? I mean, they're disappearing. They're hard to find. But I got this one at 22,000 miles on it when I got it. That's not a lot of miles for a shaft drive Honda. It's really not. I mean, Hondas can go 100,000 miles easy. So I don't know why Honda won't make an 1800 twin. I mean, I guess they're saying there's no market. Maybe, you know what I'm figuring? They must think, oh, we made the Valkyrie. That's your 1800 heavy cruiser with all the stuff on it. There, we got that covered. And then we still make a 1300. Yeah, you make a 1300 in the Fury. But what if you want, a little something more out of a twin? The V-twin Rumble, there's nothing like it. You don't get that out of a 6-cylinder motorcycle engine. Yeah, you'll be doing that all day, and you won't get sick of it either. You will not get sick of riding this motorcycle. This is one of those bikes that once you keep riding this every day, you start looking at your other bikes like, I don't know if I really. The other ones don't sound like this one. The other ones don't have the torque this one has. You start doing that. But you have to appreciate. I've had to learn to appreciate each of my bikes for what they are and for what they can do. I really thought when I first test rode it, I thought, oh, this thing's gonna be a bumpy ride, but it isn't. It's really well mannered, and even with the weight, 750 pounds wet, the center of gravity is still pretty good. It's pretty low in the corners. You feel some weight because, I mean, look, the size of the jugs on an 1800, I mean, they're pretty big. It's still a lot of weight, but a lot of that weight is lower in the bike. But this is one of those eclectic motorcycles that if something like this was made in America, they would have made it unchanged to this day. But Honda has so many technological choices they can make now that, you know, this was a flash in the pan for Honda, you know. But it's a shame. I mean, it really is a shame. They should have kept the V-twin 1800 alive. They should have even made a 2000 like Kawasaki did. You know, with the Vulcan 2000. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with a big, fat, heavy two-cylinder V-twin. Nothing wrong with it at all. It's they rumble. I mean, you feel like you're riding something serious. You will develop a symbiotic relationship between your soul and this bike very quickly. It will not take long for you to fall in love with one of these. I mean, the M109 beats this in the looks department for sure. But this is still a beautiful bike, and it's incredibly fast in a straight line, and yet it's still well mannered. And the rumble you get is low enough that it doesn't drive you crazy. It's not buzzing high up in your head. It's rumbling low under you, like it's like you got thunder in your pocket. And that's not from the burrito you ate earlier. I mean, it's not hard to ride. There's no vibration in the handlebars at all, even with all this torque. I mean, there's a little bit, but there's not that buzzy vibration that makes your hands numb after about an hour. None of that. For $3,000, I mean, how do you lose? I'm humming along in fourth gear, and it's poetry in motion. This bike is a muscle bike, yes. It is very fast, yes. But here's the beauty of this bike. It's still a Honda. You can ride it to work every day. You're not going to have any problems with it. You got a bike that looks good, handles like a beast, has great torque, and it's reliable. Okay. Why did you stop making this, Honda? Why did you stop making these? Look, there's some great American motorcycles out there, and I've ridden a lot of them, and I love Harleys. I love Indian. But you got to give it to Honda too here. This thing's amazing. The VTX 1800 is a great bike. If you're going to ride every day like I do and you get stuck in the rain a lot, ABS is a good thing. I'm Honda. Make the VTX 1800 again. Put ABS on it. You should always have that one bike that scares you just a little bit. Yeah, that'd be this one. I watched a fellow vlogger who buys and sells and trades bikes all the time. He's got a garage full of bikes, just like me. And he said the only bike he ever had seller's remorse over was his VTX 1800. And I think I see